Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, we are back on F1 2021, and in today's video, this is the ORL F1 Esports League finale at Austria. The championship battle is between Daniel Haddad and Danny Berezne. I think there was only 1 point separating the both of them, so basically whoever beats who will win this championship. And this league is pretty ridiculously competitive. I think we have at least 5 full-time esports drivers here, many challenger drivers, and everyone else is just very, very fast themselves. So coming into this, I was only a reserve driver for this championship. Next season I'm planning to do this as a full-time driver, so I'm really looking forward to that on F1 22, because there isn't going to be another season until then, since the game isn't too far away. And yeah, coming into this, nothing really to gain in the championship because I haven't done 80% of the races, but every time we've done a race, I think we've always had the ability to finish in the top 5. I think the race at Silverstone, when we spun in the last stint, could have been on for a good result there. We managed to win the social race at Sochi, as you can see here, struggling just a little bit. But yeah, this league, and I think also the Jeddah race, we had a good opportunity to win there until the last lap. Fanatics. But yeah, this league, qualifying is always a massive test, and that is probably the weakest part of my overall driving, is to qualifying, where I just need to be a lot more committed into the laps itself. Just improve that raw pace just slightly over lap, because I always tend to focus on the race itself. And you can see in this Q1, after a bit of a struggle at the beginning, we do get through in P12, but you can see how close the grid is, 2 tenths away from pole. But yeah, it is ridiculously close. So we managed to get through, fairly okay there. And this is my first run in Q2 itself. And going across the line, it's a 3.4, which I wasn't too unhappy with. My PB is a 3.2, or maybe even a very low 0.3. So I was always actually already quite close to what my maximum could be, when some others are in the 1 minute 2s, which I can definitely see where I'm losing the time to do that, but I will need a lot more laps to consistently get down to that. And you can see currently sitting in P10, and we want to try and get through to Q3 because it is rain at the start of the race, so there isn't going to be any benefit of an alternate strategy. It's really crucial that we get through into the Q3 if we can, and this is actually the fastest lap I did throughout the entire qualifying session. So you get a pretty good run going through turn 1. Only a 0.9 still though, which that first sector and that corner I just went through, I think, are my 2 weakest parts of the track. Just the whole first sector really is something I really struggle on. Going through into here, not doing this particularly badly at all, but there is rain for the entire race, so I did change my setup slightly, the ride height, just to make it a bit better in wet conditions, so that shouldn't take away too much time. But going through into here, it's not a bad middle sector so far, and we are over a tenth up on our 0.4, and coming through into this last section, doing that okay, and the last corner was done actually pretty well, and going across the line, it's a 3.326, puts me currently in P7, which I was actually quite happy with. But on the exit here, we forget to turn on the DRS, as I'm just about to say it now.
Fuck, I forgot to turn on the DRS. Shit.
And yeah, otherwise that could have been a pretty good first sector, but we did enough to get into the top 10 going to Q3. Out-qualifying Sven Zerner, who was an esports driver himself in the past, actually finished in the top 3 in the very first ever, and also Domenico in a Ferrari. So in the end, actually a fairly decent lap and getting through into the Q3. But as we approach the end of Q3, we have done another 0.3, so we are delivering quite consistently. says I've done a purple middle sector, but the delta is always incorrect on this game, I can confirm. And yeah, we're going to do our best here. And overall, as that probably should have been a track invalidation, not quite sure how that wasn't. I'm going across lines, another 3.3, another low 0.3. But you can see it's only put me in P9.
Man.
And yeah, man, the pace is insane as Daniel Haddad, the championship leader, a 0.9, a 2.9, and Beresne, his rival, in P3. And so under 4 attempts away, but the lap is so short. That is a lot of time to find. But now as we skip into the race itself, you can see, well, not quite yet, but when you'll see the tyres, it is going to be a complete wet race. So it's scheduled to be on intermediates for the entire race. So the setup was to be a little bit kinder on the tyre wear, because it is possible to do a no-stop race. And in wet conditions, you don't have to stop at all. There's no obligation to do that since there is only one compound, whereas in the dry you have to switch to 2 different compounds. But we're going to start here in P9, so just waiting for the lights to go. So we've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here. Crucial to get a good start, as we almost dropped the start as Jesse L. Rookie. We were so fortunate not to get a jump start, as him and Sven Zerner next to me, they are both got drive-through penalties already because they have jumped the start slightly. And very fortunate that we didn't react to them at the same time. Otherwise, that would have been a drive-through and our race would have been over before it had begun. So coming through into here, we're turning so much, and as a result of turning so much, Bogdan on the outside gets a really good run, and now we're back into P11. But we are going to be promoted into P9. Sven Zerner and Jesse in the Ferrari have got a drive-through penalty. So we are currently in P9 at this stage. We're going to try and fight back to go around the outside here, and because it always losing the car. So needing a few laps to make a little bit of contact here as well, which is not ideal. As the yellow flag has come out, someone has retired from the session, and that has deployed the virtual safety car. And now we have got to stay behind this, as both of those guys are going to serve their drive-through penalty now. We're just going to skip forward here because the virtual safety car did stay out for some quite considerable time. Actually, in fact, almost an entire lap, as it's now just about to finish here now. And in these conditions, it is very, very hard to overtake, and especially against this level of competition. Just in the wet, the car in front of you is always going to get on the power a little bit before you. So it really does rely on having really over a second of pace faster than the guy ahead of you if you want to make the overtake, really. Or it's going to rely on a big mistake, or it's going to be down to the strategy. And as I said before, with this track, it's been quite a short lap as well. It is technically possible to maybe go for the 0 stop. So I was really paying attention to my tyre wear as we were going through this race, and trying not to really push too hard or generate too much wheel spin at this stage of the race, as Yari Santiago overtakes Patrick Kruge. Patrick Kruge was a Mercedes Esports driver back when I was racing in Esports in 2018, but he was also in the 2019 season as well, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously he's got a lot of speed in him, and I think the top 5 in qualifying are all actually signed to an F1 Esports team as well. So the competition is incredibly high. Probably not going to be seeing too many mistakes from people as well. So it really is down to how well you can look after your tyres, and if you could effectively do the no-stop strategy. And by the time you get to lap 18, you'll have a good idea if that's possible. So that does a 12.8. We'll do a 12.9. So far, the pace is actually looking fairly good at this stage of the race. But as we now skip on to the end of lap 4, I felt with my setup I was definitely faster in the corners than the cars ahead of me. And which does confirm I felt I had a little bit more downforce and rotation than them, which is going to help me on the tyre wear, because more downforce equals better tyre wear, since you aren't sliding around as much as Yare or Yar, however you pronounce that. I know I'm absolutely awful at pronouncing names, as we're getting a pretty good run on the Haas here. Already has a 3-second time penalty, which is something you can't really afford against this level of competition. So he's closing in quite quickly behind me. Decides to not go for the overtake for now, and we're still sitting at P9 in this race, where it's almost impossible to overtake in these conditions. So as we skip to lap 10, not really much has particularly changed in this race, as a little bit of wheel spin here, and every lap I was checking the tyre wear. I'm not quite sure how much it was going up per lap, but yeah, really focusing on that as much as possible. And again, you're just going to see that we were trying to get as close as we possibly could to put a bit of pressure, but you can see going through the course, we definitely gained a time here, but because the car ahead of me could just get on that power just that bit earlier, there really isn't too much you can do. So I decided to kind of take a little bit of a step back, start protecting the tyres a bit here, as Santiago has 9 seconds worth of penalty, so he's clearly pushing quite hard, not really focusing too much on the tyre management. As we come into this corner, on the exit of it, we get a little bit of a tap from the rear. Luckily, we didn't spin out there, and looks like, again, he is in a bit of a hurry. So we are using our ERS, and pokes his nose down the inside, so we do give him the space on the inside here. But then another...
Fucking hell, can you stop hitting me?
Another bit of contact once again. So being quite aggressive here. So not going to return the favour, but we're going to try and hold this position as much as we can. We're leaving room on the outside. Going side by side into here, and another bit of contact once again.
Jesus Christ, man.
As, yeah, not too great, as we're having a little bit more commentary here now.
He's got 6 seconds of penalties as well.
And he actually doesn't have 6 seconds. He has 12 seconds worth of penalties. So, you know, I would say his race is pretty much over already, because most people in esports do not get penalties as well. You have to be fast and clean at the same time. So,
oh god, he's crashed.
And yeah,
Oops.
a confirmation that he was pushing a little bit too hard here, I would say. But skipping on now to the crucial point of the race. This is the point where you're going to decide if you go pit or go for that zero stop strategy. So as we come around the last corner here, we are about to see, going on the pit wall, that some people have pitted, because we're almost at the halfway point. We are at the halfway point of this race, and you don't want to leave it too long, because you won't have that many laps to actually catch up, as my teammate is now pitted. Bogdan up ahead has pitted as well, and honestly, I just thought to myself that even if you pitted early or later, the freshness of the tyres, it's still going to be so hard to actually overtake people, and you have to catch them up from a pit stop behind as well. So even having 2 or 3 lap fresher tyres than someone else, it's going to be pointless. As you can see, our tyre wear is on 42%. So I just thought to myself, you know what, we have got nothing to lose here. It's going to be impossible to make up positions, because if I just pitted there, then I would have came out in, I don't know what position, probably P12, P13, or further back than that, and having 2 or 3 lap fresher tyres, if I could speak properly, wouldn't really make that much of a difference in terms of the lap time as well. So I decided to actually stay out, and you can see we are still improving on these tyres as well. The gap is 4.8 as we get our first track invalidation to Yerny Dovson, who was actually called Moonfall, YouTube member of mine as well. He's a very, very fast driver, so he's doing very well in this race, showing great pace. So he's 4.8 seconds up ahead. Now I have Patrick Cruz behind me, who said before was a Mercedes F1 esports driver in the past, and still an incredibly fast driver to this day. I have him breathing down my neck, and you can see by the delta that he is pushing quite hard to get past me, because I did feel he did have a bit better pace than what I did at this stage of the race. But with the tyre wear on 41 or 42% at the halfway mark, I kind of went into a tyre saving mode or management mode where I wasn't being particularly harsh on the power. I really didn't want to generate any wheel spin at all, because the front tyres were fine. It was just the rear. So you can see here we're just being very smooth on the power, delaying the overtake button. I just don't want to generate any wheel spin whatsoever, and I'm not really interested in catching, as Samuel Bean does 11.0, so that's a full second faster than we are. But there isn't that many laps left to catch up, and even if he catches up, passing is still another thing, because you do need at least probably even more than a second of raw pace to overtake in these conditions, because DRS is not available. And pretty much for the rest of this race, Patrick Cruz was getting very close to me, but we just had to make sure we didn't get the penalty at all. But you can see that train with my teammate leading it, that is full of eSport drivers on basically 18 lap fresher tyres by the time we get to the, well, they are on 18 lap fresher tyres, so the more this race goes on, the stronger their advantage will be. And all we have to do here is just make sure we keep hitting the braking points. But with Patrick Cruz behind me, there was quite a bit of pressure, and I really wanted to, as we're just looking at the tyre wear indicator, has just come on now. So whenever that comes on, that means one of your tyres has hit 60% of the wear. But yeah, a few of my league races recently haven't really gone to plan. Been quite frustrated with this game as of lately, and having a top 5 in a league like this would have been a pretty nice result that I would have been very happy with, especially with this track where I'm not a huge fan of it as well, when both of enjoyment and raw pace. So I just wanted to get this result desperately, but you can see that train is closing in quite quickly now. But I'm also still having to try and save the tyres as much as possible. But Patrick is really pushing me here. You can see the delta keeps coming down, so he is really pushing. You see again how smooth we are on the power, so just really delaying that as much as possible. And I just knew as long as I kept doing this, it was going to take a really big mistake for myself in order for Patrick to actually get past. And you can see the gap to the guys up in third is coming down now a bit slowly, because I think we saved our tyres quite nicely, and they are starting to struggle even more on theirs as well. As we cross the line again, it's going to be within a tenth of our fastest lap. So the durability of these tyres is pretty good, and the consistency, but the fresher tyres will be going half a second to 1 second a lap faster at this stage of the race. But as we now skip into the penultimate lap of the race, you can see the gap has actually come down even more. So we are catching the third place group quite quickly. But Domenico Lovis, the esports driver for Ferrari, the third esports driver, third driver for the F1 esports team of Ferrari, who pitted about halfway through the race, has caught up to here now. And you can see we are almost into the red on our tyre wear indication, and I think we saved our tyres just really well, because I wanted to use the extra grip for the last couple of laps to put a distance. So you can see we've got the traction on Patrick Cruz. It looks like he's running quite low on the ERS as well, and all we're going to do is keep it together for one more lap if possible. But as we're going into this left-hander here, you'll be able to see on the top left-hand side of the screen, as we go through into here, he has dropped down 2 places, and it's Domenico and Dario Lumello, who is an AlphaTauri esports driver, has a 3-second time penalty. So now I have 2 F1 esports drivers behind me on 18 lap fresher wet tyres, and I think they're probably going to be lapping over a second faster than me at this stage of the race. So now we've got one more lap to try and stay in this top 5. And as I said earlier, this would have been a result that would have been much needed at this stage of the game, because we have had a few frustrating moments recently, and this is the finale of the season, so we won't be racing on PC in the league again in it for a league race until F1 22, but we probably will be doing some social races maybe on some weekends as well. But you can see here the gap is 4 tenths behind, so it looks like he is still pushing for this last lap. He wants to see if he can break into his top 5, and I was really happy that I didn't pit, because I would have been well outside the top 10 at this stage. So the gamble looks like it is paying off, but he is closing in so much. But we are still getting quite a good exit with these tyres as well. So we still have the pace as Daniel Haddad wins. So congratulations to him on the championship, as well as Dominico's really closing in now. But we still have the grip in these tyres. You can see how much we're closing in those top 3 as Yone up ahead of us actually gets a puncher, and we cross the line. Woo! Finish in the top 5, and
nice. God, that was stressful.
And yeah, to finish off the season, we finished in the top 5 in the finale, and it may not look like much was happening at race, but having Patrick Crouge right behind me, having these eSport drivers behind me for the last 2 laps of the race, and just having to manage the tyres, I felt I did a pretty nice job at managing the tyres in the end. And for once, we actually chose a pretty good strategy call. But GG to Daniel Haddad, who's a Williams Esports driver for next year. The pace them two had at the front was pretty exceptional. So well done to him on the championship. Really look forward to racing this league again next season on the new game. And quite honestly, at this stage, I'm just really excited to play something different, because it feels like we've been in this game for quite a while now. So thank you so much for the support on my videos. Make sure you scan this QR code or the Bybit link in the description, because I will be announcing the monthly winners of that. So make sure you register to Bybit if you'd like to enter the prize giveaway. And also entering to this, I will be doing a second giveaway of an F1 22 Championships Edition copy of the game on all platforms. So make sure you register to that to be entered into those. Thank you so much for the support, and I will be catching you very, very soon. Peace.